Hey guys, Miss Caps here, and today we're going to talk about the theme of two different stories, and we're going to talk about how the themes are similar for those stories. But before we do, we need to review some vocabulary. So the first word is theme itself, and the theme is the message of the story. You can also think about that as the moral of the story or the lesson of the story. It's what the author wants the reader to learn from reading the story. Quick-witted. So quick-witted means intelligent or clever. Furious is very angry. Scurried means to move hurriedly with short and quick steps. So, from the second story, you'll find the word inclined, which means holding a specific opinion and wanting to do something. And there's a hare in the second story, Hare, which is a rabbit. So, that's the definition. That's the words that you need to know before you read the stories. So, now we're going to go ahead and read the first story. Hey guys, it's Miss Caps here, and today we're going to talk about the theme of different stories, and we're going to compare the themes of those stories. So, the first one that we're going to read is Deer, Mouse, and Tiger. And after we read this story, we'll pause to think about what is the theme or what is the message that the author wants to tell to the reader. So, Deer, Mouse, and Tiger. Deer Mouse was a small animal, but he was very clever and quick-witted. He was walking through the woods one day, looking for some roots to eat. Just then, Tiger came up to him and declared he was going to eat him for lunch. Deer Mouse was a little frightened, but he quickly came up with a plan. "I'm sorry, Tiger, you cannot eat me because I have to guard the king's pudding," Deer Mouse said as he pointed to a puddle of mud nearby. "It is the best in the world and I must protect it." Tiger became very curious. He wanted to know what the king's pudding was like. Finally, Tiger convinced Deer Mouse to let him have one taste. "Well, okay, Tiger, but let me run away from here so I will not be blamed," said Deer Mouse. And with that, Deer Mouse scurried off into the woods. Tiger excitedly took a bite of the pudding. "Yuck! Ick! Bleck! This is nothing but mud!" Roar! Tiger was furious and caught up with Deer Mouse again. "You will not trick me again," he roared. "Now you will be my lunch." "But I cannot be your lunch, Tiger, for I have been ordered to watch the king's drum," Deer Mouse said, looking at a large wasp nest in a tree. "It makes the most fantastic sound in the world." "I wish I could hit the king's drum," said Tiger. "Oh, no, that would make the king very angry," replied Deer Mouse. "Just one hit, please. No one will know," pleaded Tiger. "Well, okay, but let me run away from here so I will not be blamed," said Deer Mouse. And with that, Deer Mouse hurried away into the woods again. Tiger could not wait to try the drum. He took a big swing. Pow! The buzzing grew louder and louder as the wasp circled around and started stinging Tiger. Tiger jumped in a stream and hid under the water until the wasp went away. Even angrier now, Tiger found Deer Mouse again. "You tricked me twice, but now you will be my lunch," roared Tiger. Again, Deer Mouse used his quick wits. "I can't be your lunch. The king has ordered me to watch his belt," Deer Mouse said when he saw a large snake sleeping near his feet. "His belt?" asked Tiger. "Oh, yes, "It is the best belt in the world," said Deer Mouse. "I want to try the king's belt," demanded Tiger. "Well, okay, but let me run away from here so I will not get blamed," said Deer Mouse. And with that, Deer Mouse ran away into the woods again. Tiger started to wrap the belt around his waist. Suddenly, the snake awoke and hissed very angrily. The snake started to wind himself around the tiger very tightly. "Yow!" cried Tiger. "It's a snake! Come back here, Deer Mouse!" But Deer Mouse was already far away, happily looking for food once again. So I want you to think about what might be the theme of this story. So the second story that we're going to read is called The Hare and the Lion. The lion was the king of the beast. The king of the beast had his den in a lush forest, full of his animal subjects. Since he was the king, the other animals had to obey him. He was a cruel king who abused his power. He ordered the other animals to come to him one at a time to be eaten. When a poor animal's time came to become the king's dinner, it said goodbye to its friends and went sadly through the woods to the lion's den to face certain death. One by one, the animals reported to the king to become his royal dinner. At last, it was the hare's turn to be eaten. Hare was not inclined to blindly follow the king's command. Being a crafty animal, he devised a plan to avoid becoming the king's dinner. He thought a while, telling his friends, "There is no hurry. I shall be there in time enough." When at last he set out to the king's lair, he took the longest way through the forest. He did not hurry until he came in sight of the lion's den. As soon as the hare saw the lion's den, he began to run as fast as he could. The lion was impatiently waiting for his dinner to arrive. He was furious. He was king, and a king should not have to wait for his dinner. He angrily paced back and forth, growling and roaring in frustration. He was very hungry, a state that never failed to make him violently angry. The lion spotted the hare racing toward him and let out an irritated roar. But before he could say a word, the hare cried, "Oh, lion, I know I am very late and that you have a right to be angry. Before you eat me, I must tell you of another lion who has come to the forest. The lion ordered me to present myself to him. He claims that he is the master of this forest." "Ha!" roared the lion. "Where is he? Show him to me. I'll teach him who rules the forest." "Follow me," said the hare. He raced off through the woods, with the lion following close behind. After a time, they came to a well. "Careful, my lord," the hare began. "He is down there." He continued, pointing to the well. The lion let out a violent roar and puffed up his chest to appear stronger and more regal. "I will show this impostor who is the king of this forest." The lion charged up to the well. He looked down into the water. He saw a fierce lion looking back at him. Angrily, he shook his mane and roared. The other lion opened his mouth to roar, challenging the king. Enraged, the lion exclaimed, "Let me at him! I'll show him who is master." And with a powerful roar, the king reared up on his paws and jumped over the wall of the well. A large splash ended the lion's reign of terror. Then the animals in the forest lived in peace. The hare had set them free from the lion. Every morning, the birds of the forest still sing songs in honor of the hare. So you can see here the lion and the hare, and you can see the lion is looking into the well, and the whole time he thought that he was looking at that fierce other lion. He's looking into the well of water. He's looking at himself. He's looking at his reflection. So, what do you think the theme of that story might be? So now we're going to compare the passages, and you'll see that we're starting with question 9. We're not going to do questions 1 through 8. Those were about the individual passages, and we're comparing the passages. So question 9 says, how are the patterns of events in the passages similar? So the patterns of events is what's happening in the story. So A says both passages have a large animal who defeats a smaller animal. Actually, that's quite the opposite. It's the small animal who defeats the large animal, so it can't be A. B says both passages have a small animal who tricks a larger animal. That was true, but we're going to continue reading. C says both passages have several animals who learn lessons. It may be true that the tiger and the lion learn lessons, but that wouldn't be enough to say that several animals in the stories learn lessons. So that wouldn't be the best answer. D says both passages have kings who decide what will happen. Well, only one passage actually has a king who decides what will happen. The Lion and the Hare, the lion is the king and he decides who he's going to eat, but there was no evidence of a king deciding what would happen with Deer, Mouse, and Tiger. Now, the Deer Mouse does reference a king, but he's actually just tricking the tiger, so that king actually is not deciding anything in that story. So, our best answer is B for question 9. So, 9 is B. 10 says, how are the topics of the passages similar? A, both are traditional tales, including a tricky animal. When I read that, I'm thinking, okay, that could be true because the deer mouse and the rabbit or the hare, they were both tricky. B says both are traditional tales, including kings and queens. Well, there was no queen in either tale, although the lion and the tiger did serve as kings. C says both are traditional tales, including magic. There was no magic involved. D says both are traditional tales, including human characters. Neither story had human characters, so the answer there is A. Number 11 says, how do the points of view from the two stories compare? A, Deer, Mouse, and Tiger is written in first person, but the Hare and the Lion is written in third person. B, Deer, Mouse, and Tiger is written in third person, but the Hare and the Lion is written in first person. C, both stories are written from a first person point of view. Or D, both stories are written from a third person point of view. We have not talked about so much point of view, but in this case, it is going to be D. If it's written from a third person point of view, you'll notice that there's no I in the story. That means the person or the characters in this case are not telling the story themselves. Doesn't say I was in the woods or I was in the forest. Instead, it's talking about the animals in their day, which means that somebody else is telling the story. So it's going to be D. Both stories are written from a third person point of view. Now, what we're really referring to, or what we're really trying to learn about, is the themes. So, if you remember from earlier in this video, I said the theme could be a lesson learned. So, our question is, what lesson do both Deer, Mouse, and the Hare learn? So, would it be A, you cannot trust every creature, so you should live without friends? So when I'm thinking about that, I actually think back that both of those characters had friends in the story. Maybe not the tiger or the lion, but they both had friends, so I don't know that that would be the best choice. B says it is important to share and be friendly, so in times of danger there is help. While that may be true, there's nothing in the story that would support that. There's no evidence of sharing in the story. C says a happy ending is possible if a creature is patient and waits for someone else to get him out of trouble. Well, we could definitely say that the deer mouse and the hare were in trouble, but nobody was really there to get them out. They got themselves out of trouble, so we couldn't really support C either. And D says a small creature can succeed against a powerful one using clever thinking. So if we go back to the stories, I want you now to go back to the stories and find ways that both the hare and the deer mouse use some clever thinking. They use some trickery in the story to get themselves out of trouble. So we could support D. So just go back in the story now and find some examples of when they use some of that clever thinking. So if we come back up here to deer, mouse, and tiger, we're looking for evidence that would support that the deer mouse is using clever thinking. And as we look here at the second paragraph, deer mouse tells tiger, "I'm sorry, tiger, you cannot eat me because I have to guard the king's pudding." Well, that was some clever thinking. He was telling the tiger, "Sorry, can't eat me because I have to eat this pudding." So there was evidence of clever thinking. If we look down in the story, he also uses some clever thinking when he tells Tiger that he is going to play the king's drum, or he has been ordered to watch the king's drum, and he tricks Tiger into playing the king's drum. So here he learns some or uses some trickery as well. And then finally, he tells the tiger that he can't be his lunch because the king has ordered him to watch his belt, which we learn is a snake. So he's also using some trickery in this paragraph as well. So there's lots of evidence in this story to support that deer mouse is using some trickery. If we scroll down to our next story, The Hare and the Lion, the hare also uses some trickery. As we have learned in the story, the hare, which is a rabbit, was about to be eaten, and so he devised a plan. And he took his time and came up with the plan to essentially make the lion jump into a well. He made the lion think that there was another king in the forest, and this made the lion very angry. And the hare tricked the lion into looking at himself and essentially trying to attack what was his reflection in the mirrors or in the well. So he used some trickery in this story too.